pathway of my presentation will be research question, research method, major findings, and implication. If we have time, we will have some discussion on further research. So my paper wants to answer two questions. So how bad inequality in China, and what is the major cause of this inequality? So to answer first question, we look at some descriptive statistics to see what is the difference. So I used the data set from Peking University conducted in 2014 and 2016. It's a nationwide representative data set. So first we look at the highest degree obtained in education. So people who born in 1940s, they have education. Many of them are illiterate. They don't know how to read. 40%. So People's Republic China was founded in 1949. So before the People's Republic was founded, 40% are illiterate. And nowadays, my generation is only less than 5% who are illiterate. And look at this college degree. So before the People's Republic China was founded, only 3% people go to university. But now there are 1/3 of people, nearly 1/3 people go to university. So this is the whole sample. Now we look at people living in a rural area with the living in city with urban hukou. So look like they are much better. You look at in my generation, almost everyone in people who born in city with a city hukou can read and can write, and 2/3 of them can go to university. But on contrast, people with rural household registration, they have more than 5% illiterate, and only 23% people who can go to university. So this seems kind of inequality. So before I go into detail, we have to understand the system in China. So what is hukou, and what education system in China? So hukou is a system founded in 1958. At that time, the government say people who lived in rural area, you will get a paper and written down rural hukou, and people in the city, you get a paper, okay, city hukou. And then this policy endured for 2 decades. During these 2 decades, if I have a paper right the rural hukou, I cannot move. I have a bike, but I cannot move to city because I have to get many permissions. Basically, cannot move. That is the reason. One of the reasons why more than 30 million or 50 million people starved to death during the Great Famine in China. And this is caused great inefficiency. So after reform and opening up policy in 1978, the government saying, okay, now you can move. You can go to city to find a job, and you can open your own business. Before that, private business is not allowed because we were a communist country. And okay, so now you can move to city, but you have no rights, you have no health care, and your children cannot go to public school where you work in the city. And also, so if you have an urban hukou, this paper will be written down Shanghai or Beijing or whatever city. If it's in Shanghai, you have like everything, the benefits, unemployment benefits is more than 200 euro per month for 3 years. But if you like from my small city, you got nothing. So it looks like this system creates inequality. So what about the higher education system? It's also very different from many countries. We have national college entrance examination, like Gaokao. So this is the most important examination in China. If for example, if a American university, you send applications, send your high school transcript and SAT or ACT and extracurricular activities. But in China, if you didn't graduate from high school, but you pass this Gaokao exam, you go to top university in China. So this is only one determinant for the entrance decision. And another special thing is that every university has its quota. For example, the best university in Shanghai, called Fudan University, majority of students in this university from Shanghai. It's like top university, Harvard, most students from Boston, because more than like 40 or 50% quota are located to Shanghai. At the Beijing University also, they locate most of their resources to local students. So it seems this system has some problems. Now we want to look at some more other data. So this is whole sample income. So people think China is very powerful as USA. But if you look at this survey, you find that income is very low in China. The whole sample income, if you look at the people who born 1975 to 1979, they got average, this personal income, 32,000. And then you convert to exchange rate, so it's less than 6,000 euro per year. So actually, China is much poorer than Hungary, unfortunately. So there is some inequality also, not only in education, but also in income. Look at the income, the mean income of the urban area is nearly 1,000 more. So bear in mind, this is not, this urban, the rural area is not defined by where they are working or live, but defined by the paper they have. So for example, if a guy who have a paper rural area, but he work in Shanghai, but he's still defined as a rural guy. So you look at, you look at female, it's also very unfair, female and much less than male. And in China, the coastal city is much richer because they have policy support. The east part of China earn substantial more than west, also substantial more than the central area. And this is true for entire cohort. And if we look at this graph, we see that in every cohort, this criteria, rural, urban, and male, is substantially, in every cohort they are better off. It's true also in income. So now we identified there is inequality, there's a problem. So I want to prove what is the problem behind that. Now we have to use a model to prove it. There are many literatures to discuss inequality of opportunity from a wide variety of spectrum. And in my paper, I used the methodology from Romer. So I defined, there are two determinants to determine the outcome of income and outcome of education. That is effort and the circumstances. What is the circumstances? The circumstances are gender, where you're born, and hukou. So, and you also have effort. So, if I work as hard as Michael, and but I get less money, that's called inequality of opportunity. And why I get less money? Why Michael, I work 5 hours, he work 5 hours, but I get less money? It's because I'm disadvantaged by some uncontrollable circumstances, such as gender or hukou or region I was born. So this is our model. In many papers, also in this research, they also assume effort is also endogenous by the circumstances. For example, I study 5 hours, Michael studied 5 hours, but Michael is rich, but he has a private tutor. He studied 5 hours much more efficient than me. So efforts can be also endogenous. Then I use the data collected in 2014, 2016 to run a regression of these circumstances with the outcome. This outcome is income and 8 years of education. And then I use this to predict what if then I get the coefficient and the residual. I use this coefficient and residual to predict what will happen if you are in this type. So in this module, we have many types of people. So what is the type? So if I'm a male, I'm born in city, I was city hukou, and I was born in eastern region, I'm a type 1. If I'm a female, I have rural hukou, and I have lived in central area is type 2. So we have many types. And use this regression and the prediction, we can get what in your type, what will you get in your circumstances. And the within and the efforts will be suppressed out. There's no effort after we predict this. So this new K is a distribution with there's no effort. And then, so we have many types. And we use this function used in many literature to figure out inequality of opportunity, inequality to get the absolute inequality of opportunity. So this is so this theme is direct method. There are also indirect method, but in my paper I use direct method. And then this is original distribution, and this is distribution of this our prediction. So this is relatively inequality of opportunity. And many people choose different function as I to plug in. So this I want to choose to be the function of I, because there is some people, especially older generation, female, they don't have education, so their education is 0. So I use this A2 criteria to plug in to figure out the inequality. I'm also interested in partial distribution, which is for example, hukou, this single criteria, how much it affects the inequality of opportunity. Then I set all these other circumstances constant and even, but only this one, this particular hukou or gender are different. Then I want to see the effect. And the following thing are the same. So I run a regression, and we have to be very cautious because all this cannot be interpreted as causal. This all of this just correlation. So in my paper, I made it very clear. So because we cannot observe. There are so many things determines your income and the years of education. So this hukou probably will capture the policy and the rural-urban disparity. But this rural-urban disparity occurs in all developing countries. And gender, as I discussed in my paper, I forgot to mention that in China, you choose 3 major subjects: math, English, and Chinese. And after, you can, in the second year of high school, you choose concentration. You choose liberal art, or you choose science. So if you choose liberal art, you study history, philosophy, and geology, and science, chemistry, physics, and something else. And in China, in high school, if you are a man and you study in a liberal arts concentration, you look around, all are girls. You can easily find a girlfriend. So that is also causing inequality actually, because in China, this more with central government, the public university in China is a top university, unlike America. And China funds public university a lot. So this gender inequality probably is not because only of the gender discrimination in the job market, but also their discipline where they study. So we look at the East region also have some effect, like maybe 1 year more education if we were born in East. And we see this correlation very persistent even in the younger cohort, and gender also. The gender in this one doesn't show so because now girls study much harder, or they enjoy study. So girls now go to university even more. And if you look at income, so the determined variable is low income. So if you are in a whole sample, if you with an urban hukou, you have 60% income more than people with a rural hukou. And surprisingly, gender plays very strong correlation in this sample, like 70% more. And sometimes it seems if you control other things, parental education doesn't matter so much. It's the same correlation. So I want now we turn to another perspective to look at this issue. So this is Gini coefficient by province, by cohort. So the first one is the whole sample. So the whole sample education look like this particular area seems very bad shape. And then look at this one is the people who born in 1940 to 1960s. So at this time, because at this time most female are illiterate, so it caused a huge high Gini coefficient almost in everywhere. Then there is a decrease in Gini coefficient, especially in this area probably because this area are richer, so they have more education, resources, and they come to here. Now education is fair, it's more fair. This area is Sichuan, where spicy come from, and you look at this map, but cannot expand a full picture because in China, not like France or Germany, they allocate money to more evenly to these public universities. In China, the top university receive disproportional money. So if you go to elite university, the return on education much higher. But if you go to whatever university, it's written down 4 years of education. So that is one of the drawbacks of this model. We cannot figure out how to calculate money. One money is one money, but 1 year education can be different from this university and that university. So it looks like income inequality has a more alarming trend. So this is a whole sample, and this is people born 1960 to 1980. So it seems in this period, 1960 to 1980s, there is a decreasing trend of inequality, and but then certainly inequality goes up. Yes. So use the model I described previously. Now we look at the inequality of opportunity. So as the educational resources expands, everyone is able to access education. It seems Gini coefficient of education decreasing dramatically from 0.5 to 0.17, and personal income, individual income, the Gini coefficient is remain in a very, very high level. And when I analyze this data, I spent a lot of time to want to figure it out because many of this research, they prefer use family income, or also many literature documents finding the asset is a better predictor for the inequality. But in China, it's very different from Western society. I think many Asian society like parents, and so if you get married, you still live with your parents. So that's the ideal type of family. Like I get married, I still live with my parents. My parents cook for me. My parents take care of my children. That's their golden life. That's them. So when they answer this survey, the family income is quite difficult to analyze. They can report their grandparents' income into their family income. So I could only analyze individual income, but if this is a lower bound, if it's family income or assets plus can be much higher. So now we look at absolute inequality of opportunity. This column 3, IOA. So it seems there is a decreasing trend for both for the education. So what does this imply? This implies that nowadays gender, hukou, and the region play a less important role in determining your educational outcome. Any questions?
I'm looking at the time.
Yeah.
But,
how much time I have?
10 minutes.
Okay. Yeah.
9.
Yeah, you can ask me any question, okay? So, look at this income, absolute inequality of opportunity income. It seems there's a decreasing trend from people who born in 1960s to 1964. And there's certainly a sharp decrease, 0.05 decrease. Then this income inequality opportunity income remain very high. So what happened in this area? So people who born in 1960s and 1964, they are lucky generation because they are the generation who grew up when they're looking for a job. Now they can move because the reform and opening up policy is in late 1970s and 1980s. So when they grew up and start to find a job, now they can do that. When hukou is constrained them, their previous generation, they cannot move. They can only find a job in the local area and they cannot do business. So this is a big barriers for them. But certainly they have a chance to move, then the inequality opportunity reduced sharply. This is a very interesting phenomenon. To look at this related inequality of opportunity, we see there's a decreasing trend of absolute inequality opportunity, but there's increasing trend of relative inequality opportunity. How to explain this? This is probably because in our model, we assume two factors determine the outcome, the income, the efforts and circumstances. So if this is decreasing, increasing means that effort plays a higher role. So people put more effort in this model. Means people make more efforts, and even the inequality of opportunity decrease not so quickly, but inequality of outcome decrease even sharply because people make effort. But this is also very maybe some big confusion because how can you explain older generation had less effort, younger generation could make more effort? Because in our model, we assume that effort is endogenous. So effort is also affected by the circumstances. So now people can move. People have chance to do their own business. Then they put more effort. That is my interpretation of this paper. And So in terms of income, it seems the barrier for personal income is not that heavy. So if you have especially in this regression, I can show for years of education. So if you have a same degree, even you don't have a urban hukou or you are female, this does not constrain too much, and this constraint decrease sharply. Now we turn to the partial contribution to the inequality of opportunity. One of the problems with this paper is that if we look at the total inequality of opportunity, this is a lower bound. It can only be lower bound because there are many circumstances. But look at this particular contributions can be biased in either way, especially in income, because education is fixed in certain points. You graduate on bachelor, you finish, maybe do a master, then it finishes that. So education is a fixed variable. So in some cases, we could interpret this education part as a cohort trend, as a trend that China, there's more and more opportunity available for people. But especially we have to be very cautious to interpret this income because these circumstances, because there are two effects to interact in this trend. One is the cohort effect, that in older people, maybe these circumstances affect them more. And there is another the period cohort, maybe in a later period, it's become more opportunity available. So let me conclude. So the major limitation in this paper is that robustness, accuracy, and dimensionality. Actually, this is not my idea. This is other people's. When they summarize this serious people nowadays, growing literature on inequality of opportunity, and so we can only measure the lower bound of the total inequality of opportunity, and also there are variety of papers to measure inequality of opportunity in Brazil, in Latin America, in USA. They have different circumstances. In inequality of outcome, we can use Lorentz curve or Gini coefficient. This is standardized. But in this inequality opportunity is not standardized. Thus, we cannot compare. So what my results to maybe other people who study the same topic, they cannot compare. This is a major drawback of this paper. But despite this drawback, I think this paper provides some very important information, especially for people who are not economists that come to here. When I go to people to come to me and say, okay, Chinese economy is so good. You have a central government can build a bridge for 1 year, and America they built a bridge for 5 years. That's why Chinese economy grows so quickly. And my paper tell you a very different story. This is story of governments start to liberalize its people, to liberalize the job market and deregulation, and people got chance to fight for their life. Then Chinese economy grows up. There are many other papers to show that this Chinese government's expansionary fiscal policy cause huge inefficiency. So next time when you talk, so when Chinese government controls everything, people starve to death. When Chinese government start to liberalize markets and give people more opportunity to do what they want, Chinese economy grows. So the merit of Chinese economy should not attribute to an almighty government, but to the Chinese people, the individual people's effort. That's the major point I want to you should bear in mind. And the second point is that politics and policy are very different things. You look at BBC News or CNN, they criticize that Chinese government is since President Xi came to power, there's a deteriorating situation in human rights. Lawyers were in jail and academic freedom is under attack. So it seems situation has become worse and worse. But institution is a multi-dimensional thing. So you see this BBC News tell you so many bad things, but actually many social policies is improving in China. Now, Chinese government actually plan to abolish this hukou system, I think in 3 to 5 years. And now there are in many local governments, for example in Shanghai, I grew up in a small village, but I also live in Shanghai.
Okay.
I feel